Da-da-dum, dum, da-dum, dum, 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 dum. All right, so here it is. We got Lebang and an empty chair where there should be Orion. Look at that.
The ghost of Ryan.
The ghost of Ryan, yeah.
Indeed.
He's busy switching things on in the background.
Yeah,
How
he's
are
running
you, Lebang?
the marathon. I'm fantastic. How are you, G?
I'm good. Got nothing to complain
nice.
about. Yeah, what's happening on your side?
Oh, nothing. Just casually doing.
What craziness is taking place in your world? Have you been scammed lately?
You know what? You're in for a surprise. The answer is no. It's been a nice period. If things are dying down, and for whatever reason, I have this thing where this time of the year is when people need stuff from me. So I'm getting all these cool phone calls like, hey, we need this. Hey, we need that. Are you available for this? Are you available for that? And I'm like, damn, universe, how did you know?
Awesome.
So yeah, the energy's nice, feeling good, feeling great, just casually doing TV interviews. Just another day,
Well, I like that. I think that's great because we need to get things done at this time of year. It's very frustrating for me that we don't do as much stuff. That November just ends up being like this slightly black hole like experiment where everything. It doesn't matter how hard you try to get things moving. In November, it just kind of sticks.
It slows down. But yeah, how are you, Gareth? How are you doing? Are you great? How's the vibes? How's the energy?
The vibes are good.
Good,
awesome.
Good. That's
and Ron, how's your vibes?
Vibes are good. It's the 15th. I can't believe we made it like this far so quickly. Things are probably going to be slowing down very soon. But we're still going. We're still going.
Oh no, for sure. And apparently Khomolemo's already added all the Christmas song stuff to our playlists.
Oh, lovely.
So that's happening, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
Good.
I'm literally hearing every Christmas song ever. Like he's spreading it all over. So just after like certain podcasts play, I hear like a Mariah Carey, and then I heard a Kelly Clarkson tune around there. I was like, I didn't even know Kelly Clarkson had a Christmas song.
No, neither did I. Neither did I. All right, so let's talk about the Trevor Noah advert because that's getting a lot of attention lately. And I watched it for the first time on either over the weekend or on Monday.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
I think it's good. I think it's very good.
You think it's good?
Yeah.
I think maybe they oversold it to us, right? So a couple of things. They shouldn't have disclosed that this particular TVC is worth 35 million, right? There were obviously rumors that the 35 million is how much Trevor's getting paid himself, of which later was actually disclosed that no. That full amount is what the whole production will cost. So because we had that information before we saw anything, I think mentally we're all prepared for this crazy, out of this world experience that's going to show you South Africa in a new light. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, okay, this is cute. Like it's not a terrible ad. It's actually a very nice commercial that is funny enough, not even paid for by SA Tourism. It's from a private company, but it's good. Like it gets the job done. Like cool.
Oh, you see, I didn't know that. That's one thing a lot of people like myself didn't know. I assumed it was paid for by the
one would assume that. They did a good job. They showed Cape Town in all its glory. Maybe they accidentally wrote visit South Africa, whereas they should have written visit Cape Town. But it's a good ad.
It feels to you more like a Cape Town ad than a South Africa ad, right?
Oh yeah.
Cape Town with some Kruger Park. Like.
You know what I mean? With a couple of Ryans, getting it on. But Trevor's great. The production company did a good job. We just can't be mad at that. There's many other things we should be mad at, is what I think.
I don't think this is worth getting upset about because also the kind of people who, have a problem with Trevor because he's done well. I'm just not interested in hearing from those people. I'm really not.
Sure. I'm with you on that.
It comes from just pure jealousy and like, why not me? It's so unfair. Why Trevor? It's just because you're not good.
Yeah.
And
it's contempt and hatred for his success.
He just launched his podcast on Spotify like a week ago.
Yeah.
He
And
had Dwayne The Rock Johnson as his first guest.
You cannot be mad at Trevor. You sound like a hater if you don't like Trevor.
Spotify took Meghan Markle, tossed her in the bin, and were like, bring on Trevor Noah.
Oh,
well, look, they did. When I was in New York in 2019, I met with a company that was going to do a podcast with Trevor, and they were going to charge for it. And they were expecting a large South African audience to pay money to listen to this podcast. And I remember saying to them, I said to them, guys, that's not going to happen. First of all, there are not that many South Africans who have money for starters and who are prepared to spend it on like a podcast. So take it from me. And I think they shelved that idea. But I said, look, he's a talented guy. He's got lots of fans. And there will be people who will want to listen to his show. It's just that they're not going to pay like a subscription, like $10 a month, which turns out to be like thousands of rands. But in America, they could probably afford it, if they did start charging a subscription. It's amazing what people will pay for. If you think about the things that come off on debit order every month, whether you're aware of it or not, and for a lot of people, those debit orders are crippling.
If you were to do like an actual audit, Gareth, of everything that you spend, like I think financial management 101 is check your receipts every month, highlight things, just be in the know-how. I don't know if enough people are doing that. If you were to sit and actually look where that 56 Rand is going, that 120 Rand is going, all those little amounts that to you are little amounts, but to the bank is little amounts times however many people are being charged for these things, you will actually be shocked. There's just too many little things that, get lost in the fray.
You say if you do an audit, like I'm in the process of doing that at the moment, just to see like how it is that I'm paying for a bunch of stuff and I'm like, I don't get any value for this.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm looking at it going, we need to do something about this. This is not good. I don't want to be putting away money on stupid things that I don't need. So I'm looking at it all now going, get rid of that we can maybe stop, and I suppose everybody, when you do that breakdown of what you're paying for, you sometimes get a nasty surprise. You sometimes see like something that you think, how the hell has this been sliding through the system, getting past me for the last couple of months?
Exactly.
And also there are those things that, they're sneaky about too. Like you'll find, you once hit yes on a WhatsApp or a SMS, and then suddenly you're in for like R2.50 a month.
Bruh.
Like, where does this come from?
Yeah.
What does this do for me? I don't remember this. Did I sign up? Was I drunk? Was I half asleep?
You texted love to 31314. Is what you did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I've been looking for my whole
brilliant.
life. I was wondering why I hadn't found love, and then I realized, it's because I haven't paid for that R2.50 every month.
That was blind robbery. Hey, I thought that was so unprofessional, because you know what, you would kind of sign people up to a contract that they didn't really get to review. They liked the ringtone, they'd sign up for it, and then they get charged R2 a day.
That's crazy. Crazy town.
That's criminal.
They got away with it.
Carl says, I'm so tired. I just want to be drunk on the beach already. Anyone else spent? Well, yeah, I think loads of us are just, we've had it now with this year. And we just want to end it and kind of have a little break and then come back feeling refreshed. Because I think a lot of energy has been wasted and dissipated this year on dumb shit. And also, the world's a bit messy at the moment, and we can't deny that 2023 in terms of human history is not going to go down as one of our favorite years. The Russia-Ukraine war continues unabated. America is showing zero leadership in the world. China and Russia. I see that the Chinese president, by the way, is visiting San Francisco this week, which is interesting. It's just it's a strange time. And suddenly, as somebody said to me, suddenly the ANC is starting to do things. It's trying to push legislation through Parliament. Suddenly they're talking about this project and that project. And you're like, oh, really? You're just woken up now, guys.
Rest.
Guys, this is the best time of year for the ANC. Like, everything gets done now. We must enjoy it while it's here because it only comes once every 4 years.
Not hearing it, not falling for it, not
No,
interested, still not
no, we're
voting
not.
for you. The
No,
end.
we're not gonna fall
Mm-mm,
for it. Absolutely.
mm-mm,
All
mm-mm.
right, so let's talk about a couple of things because I'm glad we brought up the Trevor Noah ad. Listen, it is peak tourist season, as we discussed with Achi yesterday on the window seat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I haven't made any plans for December yet. I've got like a quick 2-day thing that I'm doing in late December. And otherwise, I kind of feel like I just want to spend it at home. I've got people saying, why don't we go to this place? Why don't we do that? Frankly, I'm not particularly motivated to like do anything extravagant or crazy this year. I think we've got to keep our wood dry, make sure that
Yeah.
you got to start the year strong next year.
Sure.
I know that sounds
For most of us, we've already
so
started.
boring. I know, but it's so boring compared to what Carl's saying
It
about
is.
like being drunk on the beach. I know it's so boring.
Lucky you.
I hate to be the reasonable one here, but like you don't want to start next year with
Drunk on the beach.
like debt and all the other.
Eish.
I've also decided, and I again, I'm not going to apply this like a Nazi, but I've proven to myself I can do this. I can just not have any alcohol, and I'm going to start on the 1st of January, and I'm not going to stop until I really feel like it, until I absolutely look at, a glass of wine or whatever and go, that'll be fun now. Because I think
New Year's resolutions. It's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
just-
that time
I
again.
forgot about that.
I'm not even going to call it a New Year's resolution because I hate those. And also, they're unrealistic and you forget about them by February. And
Sure.
it was a waste of time. But I'm going to do it just to see what the benefits could be for my body and mind. Because it's just become a thing that, you just kind of do this. You don't even think about it. Like when you're around people, you just do this.
Yeah.
So
I just think we're just so used to exactly that, just doing it. It's like second
Yeah.
nature, especially as South Africans. Like when we're around our peers,
Yeah.
our family, and everybody's cracking jokes,
can't
the
help
almost automatic thing is I need something in my hand to
You
hold
drink.
and sip
Yeah.
on until I get completely wasted. I don't think it always has to be like that. And yeah, I've also kind of made a similar decision. Like this is the first December in like 5 years that I'm not going to the homelands. I'm just gonna kick it in my house and
Yeah.
chill. I'm gonna probably braai every single day. I'm gonna be doing a freaking Harry Potter marathon and all that jazz. I just don't have extreme plans and I like it. If you wanna come see me, you'll know where to find me. I don't wanna step outside. The minute I step outside my door, I'm spending money. So no thanks. There's just things I'm like, let me just chill. Let me just relax and see how it goes. You know?
I'm all for it. Like, even if you had a little braai every day, just a small one, or
Oh,
you,
yeah.
that's going to cost you less than paying for accommodation if you're going to the beach or something. That's
Oh, yeah.
So if you cut down on certain expenses, you can make it up in other places.
Yeah.
And especially alcohol.
Yeah, and I know it sounds boring, but I've always said South Africa has this weird relationship with alcohol where we just don't feel like we're actually having fun until we're drinking. So let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna see Fiki Lembalula get paid by a bottle store again and like do a whole December special on TikTok?
Free us.
Was it Fiki Lembalula? It was one of the government guys.
If anyone
Kenny
pays
Kunene.
Kenny Kunene, that's who it was.
if anyone pays a bottle store to look after a politician, or if a bottle store themselves pay for a politician to be in the ad campaign, we should just boycott them completely. Right?
Real talk. Both of them. All parties involved.
Snipe says a lot of December events are going to be rained or stormed in. Do you think it's going to be very rainy?
Well,
it always kind of rains in December, especially towards the end.
judging
like
the last few
In
days,
Joburg.
it's been wild. The weather's
Hey,
been
Yeah.
crazy.
Don says the Lollipop Lounge, that's a strip club, is for sale. Can't operate without Ryan's business. Oh, no, Ryan.
I don't know what they're talking about.
You should buy it.
Sure.
I've often thought, like, own a strip club is such good business. Because what happens
Yeah.
is, the way it works, I remember talking to Andrew from the Grand. And
Oh, yeah.
the way it works is, so he sets up the venue, makes it, and the Grand is spectacularly beautiful inside. He didn't spare an expense, right? And then He's got food there every night. So there are operating costs. But the strippers pay you to come and sell their wares there. So you get
for like a place.
You
Yeah,
charge
it's like a
them, you
salon.
charge them rent. And then they come in, and then whatever they make over and above that, they keep, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good business to me.
Apparently, the food's also really good. Like I've heard that the food,
everyone talks about the Grand
food at the Grand and other places are just like they make sure that while you are eating, you are eating.
I'm just gonna write down like that is something I'll do this. Write that down. Like there's a thing to do. This December suddenly woken up and become exciting again in my mind. Okay, good. So I've got that. Thank you, Lebang. Thanks for bringing that up.
Places to eat and eat.
Yes, and eat and all the other stuff. I just paid 10K, says Ricky, for 2 WWE tickets. I don't even follow WWE.
That's so cool.
It's all about experiences and memories. Well, good for you. If
good for you. That's awesome.
If you want to do something different and do something you've never done before, that is never a waste of money. Am I right?
Honestly.
But you see, I have a feeling Ricky's the kind of guy who's going to see Logan Paul pop up for a Friday night SmackDown, and he's going to be so mad. Because Logan Paul just beat Rey Mysterio for I forget which title, but
I don't know what you're talking about. This
are these people still in the WWE?
So Rey Mysterio is still in the WWE.
What?
Yeah, he's brought his son Dominic as well.
Oh my word!
I don't keep up much with it, but it was one of the things from childhood I used to love. Like John Cena made an appearance at the last Royal Rumble.
Did you guys see him?
Yes.
Are you sure?
This time he made sure.
I heard that's an interesting story about this WWE thing. You know, Vince McMahon, who started it.
Genius.
Real wrestling used to be this incredibly slow, incredibly dangerous sport. And there's still people who do it. You know, they put on those fucking horrible outfits and then they grapple each other, and like you have to get someone in the circle and down and then they have to tap them out. Yeah. Right. And so the wrestling itself became very boring because the audiences would watch and then it would be like, you know, a long period of nothing happening. Basically, guys just squaring off against each other in this ring, and it was just boring. And then what Vince McMahon did is he started making like these narratives and creating these characters, because also you can hurt yourself quite badly in wrestling.
Yeah,
it's a very physical contact sport, and then you know you'd spend all this money on like hyping some guy up and marketing him, and then suddenly he's out of the game because he gets hurt. And so what they did is they started scripting these beefs, and they started
all the narratives.
They started creating like entertainment around it, and ultimately they even started making the sport itself into less of a proper contact sport and more of a, now I'm going to smash this chair across this guy's head, and the chair's going to be made out of like balsa wood, and it's not going to hurt, but he's going to go down as if it does. And that was acting, it was pretending. And part of the reason that it all changed is because he went in front of the sports commission. I think it was in one of the states, like New Jersey or whatever, because they wanted to fine him and control and regulate wrestling so that they could, because he was making tons and tons of money.
Oh yeah.
And they tried to take control of it. And he, in order to get out of paying the taxes and becoming controlled by this governing body, he said, actually, and he admitted this on TV, he's like, it is all fake. It's all bullshit. We script everything. Every single move is predictable. The contestants know what's going to happen. They rehearse everything. There is nothing about it that's sport. It's all pure entertainment. So the sports body could not call it a sport, and they had no authority over him. So
genius.
He got out of it. It's genius. But the funny thing is, everybody said no one's going to watch this thing anymore because now we know it's bullshit.
Because he's announced it. Yeah.
Well, didn't change a thing. Turns out
we watched more.
People are so stupid that they enjoy it more, even if they know it's fake. They don't care. So
no, we don't. We don't.
Also, Also, it was a South African staple on ETV. If you didn't have DSTV,
WWE SmackDown.
And one other thing about Vince McMahon is, I don't know if you know this, and I don't want to bring up numbers because I really don't know, but he was the first person to actually start a streaming platform for WWE. Before Netflix, before any of those streaming platforms, WWE was the first people to do it and charge a subscription fee. And then on top of that, they licensed it to Fox to broadcast on national television as well as the streaming side.
Lovely.
Not selling it, not selling the content, but licensing it. So he still owns all the content and makes all the money. He is brilliant. But I mean, as you know, things go, he's just been in the news lately. And
have you seen that meme of
his daughter took over the whole thing like for 6 months or something, and then they brought him back, and now they're trying to cancel him again. I think he might even have left. I can't remember.
But he doesn't care.
He doesn't. He made so much money.
I saw this whole thing because obviously he's now very much on the Trump side of things. So he was it Trump with Kid Rock? Who else?
Dana White.
All of these guys are like all together. And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I just, anytime politicians come into anything, I just go, ugh. Really?
Yeah, they mess everything up. The P in politician stands for poison.
Well, Trump comes out like he's a wrestler or an athlete.
Yeah. There's this funny meme of him going around where he's pretty much like in an interview, like docu style, and then he gets all teary-eyed. And then he just goes, cut, like, don't ask me that question. So everybody's like, it's really going around doing the rounds. It's hilarious. Oh, shame, man.
I just feel so sorry for the people who are credulous fools, like they believe it's real. But then I think to myself, why am I feeling sorry for these people? They're either just straight up stupid, or they are suspending disbelief. Like when you go into a movie, you know that there aren't really superheroes who can fly and burn things with their eyes and, you know, smash like whole planets with, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, if you can do that and you can have fun, then why are you stopping these other people? Why do you care about what they're doing for fun?
Sure.
Let them have their fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let people enjoy things as long as they're not really hurting anyone and they're not in your way. Just let them enjoy things.
Definitely.
And it's also it's literally, I think a part of it is you are okay with knowing that it's all fake. It's fine. If anything, you feel a little bit better because if it was real, damn, people would be getting hurt. But you're completely cool with the fact that this is fake storytelling. It's a movie that you're watching live. And that's fine because you find joy in that. You're allowed to have your little joy. There's so many things out there that aren't joyous. If this is what brings you that joy, just hang on to that crap and be, do your thing.
As Dave says, the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt while the stupid people are full of confidence. That's a Charles Bukowski quote. Very good. And that's exactly right. So some people talking here about the plans for the December holidays. David says, shout out from Sydney. Really great to catch the live show. I'm always a day behind and listen to the show the following morning. Terrible to listen to Friday's show on a Monday morning. Yeah, David, I'm sorry. But it's nice to have you on live this morning.
Wait, David Sachs? I went to primary school with a David Sachs. What are the chances that it's the same David Sachs?
There could be more than one.
I mean, there definitely could be more than one.
Especially if it's non-South Africa.
No, but it could be. It's all I'm saying. Like the way life is set up these days.
The world is small.
Hi, David Sachs, if you're the one I went to school with.
Tanya says, good luck, Gareth. I gave up alcohol 4 years ago and gave it up for good. Best decision ever. Saved money and my health. You'll feel fabulous. Well, you see, that's kind of the motivation for me. If I could do better, if you can convince me that a decision will lead to me feeling better, doing better, I'm all for it. I don't mind giving up anything. I'll give up. There's a lot that I'll give up if you can promise me great results. And I'm very good at delaying gratification too. So if you say to me, for example, listen, if you don't buy any alcohol, by the end of the year, you'll have an extra 100,000 Rand. I'll be like, count me in.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I'll
how much are you spending on alcohol?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I pulled a number out of the sky.
Sure.
So I don't think it's quite that much. But anyway, I mean, that would be a motivator, right?
Sure.
Morning. I just joined, says JP. Batman is for real, though. No scientific proof to say otherwise. So, yeah, you see, if people are having fun, do whatever you like. All right. So what is this thing I hear about Kendrick Lamar's new phone that he's launched?
Okay, so Gareth, you are gonna love this. I spoke to Lebang about this last week. So he's just done a recent collaboration with something called the Light Phone 2. So now it sells for $300 US, and it's already sold out. On the day it came out, it sold out. There was only a limited amount, but basically it's called the dumb phone, the anti-smartphone. It's a new trend where this phone, and I have a picture of it over here. Let me bring it up for you. It doesn't have social media on it.
Oh, nice.
It is just, you can use it as like a hotspot, an alarm clock, a music player for your notes, a calculator.
Listen, I came up with this idea like 8 years ago. You see, this drives me crazy. I keep coming up with ideas, and then I see other people doing them, and I'm like, you stupid loser, Gareth. You should have just trusted your instinct. I wanted to launch a dumb phone, and anyone who listens to the show knows that I'm not talking shit. Easily, like 8, 9 years ago, I was like, we got to bring out this phone because people are tired of social media and they don't want these distractions. And actually, for like parents to buy their kids this phone would be amazing. You'd be like, Lebang, I mean, you know this. If your kids could use this thing in an emergency to call you, or useful stuff. I saw there. Just put it up again because they've got notes on there as well. So that could be notes. There's music. I don't know what's under the category of language, but an alarm. That's so clever. And look at how like simple the design is.
It's basic, right?
I mean,
it's clean. It's clean.
You don't need a huge number of apps. This is going to be cheap to produce. The Chinese are probably churning this thing out at like $7, $8 a phone, and then he's selling it for $300. The margins are huge.
It's crazy.
I'm sure. And I mean, it just takes getting someone like Kendrick Lamar on board, and then it's sold out on the first day. And I never thought I'd be that guy to be like, I would actually like that phone, but I'm slowly getting there because my phone buzzes like every 10 minutes or so between the different apps.
But that's because you have all your notifications on, Ryan, and it's childish.
No, I know, but I have to reply to emails and get messages, and then you have to monitor your Instagram, and you have to.
Not really, no.
Well, as a producer, it's kind of helpful. It's kind of helpful to do that, but it must be such a cool thing to just have a phone that only rings and you just get text.
What, a Nokia 3310? This is what it sounds like. It's literally life before smartphones.
No, but this is a modern day phone.
Yeah, but the problem with like the Nokia 33, where are you going to get a charger for it?
Just find like a little corner somewhere. There's definitely somebody selling it. Oh yeah, store, like who I'm talking about. Your homies, about my friend. They definitely are selling all of it there. It's like it's the wheel. Just like there's nothing new under the sun. The wheel is turning as it does. Like we're back at. We want the simple stuff. We no longer want all the distractions and all the fluff that they gave us.
David says, Lebang, it's 2023. I can identify as the David. If it makes you happy, then why not? What school did we attend?
Yes, it is. You actually can be whatever you want to be. So hi, David. It's been a while.
Hanging out with Jay says, guys, it's easy to spend 1,000 Rand a weekend. Times 4 times 12, it's 48,000 Rand that you would spend.
You see? And
calculation.
If you want to save.
Riet says, my adult kids who are 35, 31, 22 went sober curious a few months ago. They love it. It's a huge trend in Cape Town.
Interesting.
Yeah, sober curious. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah,
that's a new one. And sober curious in Cape Town. In fact, the word sober and Cape Town in the same sentence is like, whoa, what?
Being curious in Cape Town. I'm like, Cape Townians aren't really that interested in anything. Maybe themselves.
I was curious. I mean, I saw a video as I was walking in here. There was some guy who was in the ocean. He was filming himself, and he's like, "Guys, those of you who live in Cape Town, like, You can't say you need to go on holiday because you live by the holiday.
Yeah, your life is the holiday.
Your life is the holiday. So I wonder, like, where do you think Cape Townians feel like they just want to go to the city for a break?
No, Cape, if you live in Cape Town, and I mean like you live properly in Cape Town, like
in the cities,
like you can afford, like you are relatively well off. You definitely aren't traveling in South Africa. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're probably going overseas. Like that's when you're traveling. You're going to Italy for lunch and Paris for the weekend.
But you might not do that in December. You see, if you've really got flexibility, and let's say you don't have to worry about things like school holidays, or then you can go any time of the year. Those are the people who really, because they go out of peak season, so they don't really worry about other people or crowds, or that's the way. That's exactly.
Legit. Look, I'm in Cape Town this weekend, so I'll give you guys feedback as far as.
Oh, you're finally going to that thing that was cancelled.
It's not that thing that was cancelled. It's got a name. It's called Rocking the Daisies.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm finally going. Super excited.
You've been on your haunches, ready to sprint to this thing since
dog.
September.
You know why?
Because you told me about this in September, and I'm like, Jesus, Lebang, are you ever going to go to this thing?
The thing is, Gareth, I've been going for like 5-6 years straight every year, and it is literally the best music festival we've got in this country. The quality of music festivals compared to everything else, Rocking the Daisies is in like the top 5. So I do look forward to it. I make it a big deal because it's so dope. Yes, they did have to cancel this year, but it's now happening this weekend. So very much looking forward to it. And I think it might be, like because I've been to so many, it might be like my last few that I'll be attending these next few years. Now I want to start focusing on like international festivals. Like next year, I'm planning to go to the UK for some Drake and Travis Scott concert. Like that's where I'm at. I need to level up. So it's all love.
Very
good. I'm pleased to hear it. Finally, you're getting there.
Yeah.
It's probably a good time too, because I just realized you actually sound pretty good now, because you were sick for like 6 months.
6 months.
No, don't you remember?
No,
no matter what Lebang did, she could not
sneezing all the time.
Just get better, and she kept coughing.
No, this is
and everybody in the office was coming up with their own like little concoctions as to how she can get over it.
But we all went through a little bit of a sicky period. Like it was the winter that caught us all off guard. Then it was the hay fever.
You were so blocked up. No. It wasn't everyone. Don't try and share the blame.
I'm trying to make it like group work.
Basically, you put alcohol too much when you were like this. It was bad. Very bad.
I was listening back to some of the interviews I did during that period, and I was like, yes. So why did they let me do that? Oh, it sounded horrible. But we back. We back, baby.
All right, good. I'm glad to hear it. All right. What is accent privilege?
Yeah, dude. So there's like definitely a thing going around that ironically nobody has identified as what it is, which is essentially accent privilege. So as a young Black professional, or, just a young, well-spoken and in inverted commas person, when you walk into a room and you start speaking in the way that I'm speaking right now, people, they look up, they take you seriously, whatever the case is. But if I walk into a room and I go, hello, guys, hey, the weather today, it's so cold outside, if I speak like a politician, for example, you're almost deemed not as serious, or nobody takes you as seriously. So now there's a term, except in politics, but that's, because of the audience, right?
Yeah, in politics, you have to put on that. I remember that there was a clip going around of Musi Maimane. Remember when he was like talking to people? When he was in Soweto, he was talking like this.
Yeah.
And hey guys, we've got to stand up for the poor, this kind of thing.
Sure.
And then as soon as he was with business people, he's like, hi everybody. So I'm
gentlemen. Yes, as Musi Maimane, I believe. So accent privilege has been, coined, and as my primary school peer David Sachs mentioned, it's 2023. You can identify as whatever you want. You can make stuff up. So accent privilege is when you speak a little bit more Lania, and you have like a different twang on your English, and apparently you're taken more seriously. You're given access into other spaces that you wouldn't be previously allowed in because your English is not that great and it's got a different accent. So I found it interesting how so many people are just like kind of jumping on this. And approving and confirming that, yeah, me too, hashtag me too. There's been times when I've tried to do this, but because of my accent, it's seemingly a real thing. And for those people who have experiences, I don't want to downplay their experiences. Again, 2023, do you, boo-boo? But yeah, what a time to be alive.
If that's true, if it's
Yes.
true, and there is always something you can do about it. As I mentioned, Musi would, like,
Switch
in
up.
inverted commas, black it up if he was with a black audience, and he would sound white if he was with white people. So you can learn to do this. This is not something that is, so technically a privilege is something that you have that other people can't get. And
Sure.
that's not the case here. Because
you can put it on.
You could put it on. You could learn it. So, I mean, for example, I don't think I sound different with anybody because this is just how I talk, and it's too much of a ball ache to have to change it up. But I understand. Some people feel like they need to play to the crowd.
Sure. It's performance.
If it's performance, you can learn it. And if you can learn it, it's not privilege. So don't cry to me. Just learn. And I mean, frankly, Lebang, if people are taking you more seriously because of the way you sound, what's wrong with that? If it's got you more jobs, if it's got you interest from people who wouldn't have been interested in you otherwise, good for you. Go for it. You score.
If I can put on this accent in inverted commas every day, then you can learn how to put one on as well.
Right. And I don't it's like not being bitter and resentful about someone else's success, because people are always looking to blame something on the outside for why things don't work their way. So you'll have people going, oh, well, it's because that person's got accent privilege. I mean, can you imagine what a loser? What a loser you have to be. Sit around going, I wonder why I'm so fucking bad at everything and everybody else is so good. Oh, it must be because they have accent privilege. Imagine what a loser.
Pretty wild. But apparently in corporate, it's pretty hectic. And I can't speak from experience because, thank you, by God's grace, I've never had to work in corporate. But apparently there it's pretty rife. Like, it's pretty hectic. They'll only call forward a certain group of people when client is around. And when client isn't around, then everybody else can come. It's like, it's wild out there. It's just like...
I'm so not interested in that shit, because a friend of mine who spent... This guy, I mean, he wasn't really a friend of mine. He was at Varsity with me, but he went to America for, I don't know, 6 weeks once and came back with like a fat American accent. He's like, hey guys, how are you doing? Everybody okay? I'm like,
oh, sir.
What the hell?
My friend also came back from the UK like that. And so all his old friends were here for a braai when he got back. And as soon as he started, with the whole brav thing, we're like, dude,
relax.
You don't speak like that here, please. Get out of here.
We're not falling for your nonsense. If you're gonna do, and listen, actors do this all the time, right? So they'll learn an accent for a role, and they have accent coaches. So you have people in the world who can teach you this stuff.
Sure.
It's unbelievable.
And also, it just depends on like what you do with that information, right? So I know there's certain companies that actually are aware of this thing and they sort of do something about it. So I think it's Pineapple. When Pineapple do interviews and they hire people, whatever the case is, they do that interview in the language that like you prefer to speak. So if your mother tongue is isiZulu, they'll like get somebody to interview you in isiZulu because it's not the language essentially.
Can you imagine how big their HR team is? Because they now need someone who speaks Sepedi in every.
But Gareth, it gets them to hire the right people, not just people based on how well you speak English. In this country, it's working. It's working a charm for them. It's working very well.
It's not hiring the right people. This is pandering to ever-increasing minority complaints. Because I'm telling you, Lebang, what's happened in the world now is that you have people who've run out of things to blame and to complain about for their own failure or lack of success.
So
what they do, well, you could disagree, but I'm telling you, this is how it works, because these HR departments are overstuffed with people who are pandering to staff who've forgotten that they're staff. They start to think that they need to be treated like a character from a superhero movie. Oh, this one's coming for an interview, but they really prefer speaking Mandarin. Do we
Not
have
preference. It's the language that you speak in, the language that you primarily speak in. Not everybody primarily speaks in English. So they don't have a whole HR team that represents every language. If there's a person that CV has come in and they're like, damn, this person could be the guy, but they come in and they do speak English like this, but they are brilliant.
This sounds like
It's
nonsense.
working for Pineapple.
This sounds like, yeah, well, come on, they're an insurance company. They have about as much imagination as my cup that I keep my tea in.
I completely disagree.
Well, okay. I just think it is a minority complaint. And this is what happens when people feel like they can make a grievance like this a part of the reason that they're not successful.
Definitely not. Definitely not. There are some brilliant people out there who simply do not use English as their first language. Okay. That's all, and it ends there. And that's kind of it.
So what about
brilliant and talented?
So what if someone who's just moved here from Italy wants to go and work for you? And now what? You must find someone who can interview them in Italian?
If this person is the best person for this job, and they primarily speak,
because that's the language of business in this country.
Gareth, I'm genuinely not going to argue on something that's proven to work for Pineapple. Like, it's proven to work for them, and it works for them. Like, it's
one
like
company proven to. I think it's just something that they're using to get publicity for how incredibly thoughtful and inclusive they are. I don't believe for a second it's helping with business. If it helps with the bottom line, show me how. Show me how. Objectively, sounds nice, but it sounds like one of those things. Like the next thing you know is going to be someone who interviews only people who wears Crocs, because the people who wear Crocs are more comfortable at work, so they can get more done.
Okay, Gareth.
But then
no,
I suppose
no, definitely not.
It's kind of if you're looking for certain people, then you'd have those certain people in place, I'm assuming. So if you're looking for Zulu people to come through, then you'd have somebody there. It's not just if you're looking for English people, you'd have English people there.
No,
right?
We're looking for the best people fit for this job. Like, the end. Like, that's kind of it. And not everybody, simply put, speaks English, or it's not the mother tongue for a lot of people. And that doesn't make you any less able to do the work,
But by the same logic, the more languages you can speak, the more valuable you'll be in a company. So
absolutely.
If you speak Zulu and you speak French and you speak Mandarin, you should get the job ahead of someone else, because maybe you'll have French and Mandarin people to deal with. We are in Africa. So that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I think maybe let's get the Pineapple people to come through and speak on this. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I don't work there, but yeah, like, if this is something that they are truly doing and it's not just a PR stunt, then let them come through and speak on it. And
I mean, Sanela says it is nonsense. If you're interviewed in your language, are they going to hire you an interpreter in all your meetings and deals that you do with clients as well?
Dude, it's the language that you are interacting with. It's your mother tongue, bro. At the end of the day, if you can't speak English, then maybe they shouldn't hire you, is the bottom line. But if you're the guy for the job, they shouldn't not hire you because you cannot speak English as your first language. Maybe English is your second or third, that have just been held back off of the basis of, well,
too many people are held back because they're stupid, and too many people are held back because they're too short and they need to be tall in a certain job. There's some people who are in construction who are too weak to throw bricks around. So I know that there's this idea all over the world that every job should be available to every person and there should be no encumbrances upon them, but that's just not how it works. Like in our line of business, you have to be able to communicate properly. So if you are
what's communicating properly, Gareth?
Like we are this morning on the show, making sense to our audience, and communication. The purpose of language is communication, and the purpose of communication is so that we can understand each other. If you are the kind of person who makes no sense because you have, I don't know, some form of you're on the spectrum where you have huge difficulty communicating with people, then I'm sorry, then this is not the job for you. As much as I would like to say, well, autism isn't a problem, if you're on the show and you've got severe kinds of autism where you can't actually communicate with people, I don't know that you should really be in the business we're in, for example. That's not unreasonable. And it's also not unfair. It's not a discrimination in a negative sense. It's a positive discrimination. Don't you think?
Well, big ups to companies that are actually being more creative as far as the different types of people that they want to hire that are probably better suited to find solutions over the same people that they're hiring all the time. I think it's great. And if it's working for them, fan-fucking-tastic.
I think it's such a waste of time. And even if this does turn out to be some gimmick that an insurance company is doing, doesn't impress me.
Cool. Cool for you, bro.
Well, no, cool for. Is it going to add to your bottom line or not? I mean, you can get upset about this, but the reality is it doesn't necessarily add to. If it adds anything, it adds costs, not profit. I mean, as Sanela and Dave and a whole bunch of people in the comments are saying, they're making a lot of sense. If we want to pander to silos and encouraging that, then we should encourage this language thing. You forget the Tower of Babel, says Sun Marie going to the Bible. If you have a German client that brings in billions, then by all means, employ a person that can speak German to ease communications. But generally, everyone should be able to speak English. That is the language of business in the world. That's why even the Chinese don't expect you to speak their language. They learn English. That's how they do business. In my office, you have to leave some dollar bills in the couch, or I won't look at your CV. Every time it gets full, it hits to Cyril. All right. For a lot of jobs, the technical and people skill that sets you apart. How many CEOs do we meet that can't speak fluent English? Also, if you're looking for a presenter job, then it's obvious that that's a skill that you should possess. Of course, and there are also people who don't need to communicate effectively. So we're in the communication.
Yeah.
But if you're a coder who works in IT,
and you're not speaking to the public, you're not doing any PR gigs. You just need to be able to do the back end stuff. And if you're the best guy at that, then fantastic. Let it just be that.
And let's not forget that as AI becomes more and more important, the whoever is interviewing you also becomes less important, and whatever you speak is becoming less important too, because the only language that's going to matter in the future is how you communicate with machines. So
yeah. No, I love it for Pineapple though. I think it's great for them. It's great.
No, I know. It sounds like you're massively impressed by this. You think that they've just reinvented the wheel by the sound of things.
I think that they're just doing something that nobody else is caring to do. And it's great.
Stupid. It's going to cost them money and it's going to be a disaster. You watch. They'll scrap this soon. They're going to make a big noise about it now, and it sounds, oh, it's so great. And
they're really not making a noise. That's like the irony. They're really not going on a whole PR run.
How do you know?
I know about it because I know the guy that started Pineapple. He just casually told me. I was like, geez, that's so cool, dude. He just like slipped it in. You know, it's not a whole, look at us, we're Pineapple, we're being so inclusive. Go for us. It's just, you know,
that's why you're talking about it, because you know the guy.
Sure. And I think it's cool.
It's like asking a eunuch to be a pocket pussy tester, says Woody. All right, let's take a look at something now. Some of our audience have been asking what's been happening with Revix, because, of course, we walked a long journey with Sean from Revix, and he's been very busy in the last couple of months. We got an update from him just recently, and people want to know what is going on there now. So let's get to Sean. Hey, Mr. Sanders, what's happening?
Morning, Gareth. Morning, team. Yeah, good, thanks. How's everything on your side?
Yeah, we're good. So I thought it would be a good idea, because we got a couple of emails from some people who wanted an update on what's been happening with Revix, because the last time we spoke to you, there was quite a lot going on with queries and people wondering if their investments are safe and all the rest. So we thought we'd get you back to talk about that and give us a general update. So what's happening?
Yeah, so I guess in the world of Revix, we had the Haru event that happened earlier this year. Just to recap sort of what happened there, we had a South Korean partner that we were working with. We still don't really know what happened within this firm, but we ended up getting a notice from them that all withdrawals from that business were suspended. Now, there has been court proceedings playing out in South Korea, and these court proceedings have been going according to plan, although a little slower than we would have hoped. But the good news is that everything is still moving forward with the South Korean partner, and we do expect at some point over the next several months to get some sort of a verdict that will enable us to get access to the funds that we have with Haru. Now, whether that's going to be a court mandated, Haru CEO executive team, you need to pay back the various creditors that you have, or alternatively, the management step in and go through what's known as a rehabilitation process. It's a specific process in South Korea where they would then look to return the funds that they have. And just to also go back, there was 24% of customer investments with our platform that were effectively held with the South Korean partner. So we take this very seriously. I've been very involved myself. We've had our legal team involved with this. We've had compliance involved with this. We've engaged with the regulators of Haru. So that's the regulators in the EU, in South Korea, and in the US. So it has been an incredibly busy period, but we're doing absolutely everything we can to get the funds back from Haru as soon as possible. So I think just to maybe summarize with the most important point, we do expect to get the funds back. We don't know if that's going to be 100% or a significant portion. That's something I can't determine just yet, or I can't say with certainty just yet, but we do expect to get those funds back. It's just now over what period of time? Is it 1 or 2 months, or is it a bit more than that?
Well, that's a relief, I think, for anybody who's investing with you guys, and for people who might have been affected by this through other platforms too. What happens though if your Bitcoin is going up and up and up in value? Are you going to be paid out proportionally in that way as well? Because I'm just thinking, for a lot of people, what they do is they put this money in to an investment and then they leave it for however long, and then suddenly they come back like 3 or 4 years later and they go, wow, look at how that investment's grown. This is not going to in any way encumber that, obviously, provided that the courts decide in favor of investors.
So I wish I could answer that with a simple yes. We will make sure that there is the exact amount that's returned. It's really going to be down to what happens with Haru. So with Haru Invest, we suspect that they will return the funds in crypto, which is perfect, because that means you've seen obviously a remarkable run in the crypto market. I think the market's up about 85% year to date. Our crypto index bundles are up about 95%. If you look at sort of the top 10 and top 20 bundles. So it's been a very good year in crypto. And naturally, people would want access to the gains that they've made. And as you'll see, if you're a Revix customer and you're on the platform, we've deliberately gone out and not shown you just your locked value at the time of the Haru event. You're actually seeing the live crypto price equivalent of the holdings that you have on the platform. So we intend to give our customers naturally as much value as they possibly can. And I'm not just saying this. I mean, we really are doing a lot in the background to make this a reality. And, I think there's also been queries around, well, customer support hasn't been accessible. This was something that, a query that I got. And our customer support is 100% accessible. You can head over to www.revix.com. You'll see that there's a live web chat function. So you can send us messages literally 24/7, and you can send an email to customer support or support@revix.com. And we'll be able to get back to you within 24 hours. So our team are here. We're not going anywhere. Teams in South Africa. There was also some comment that was made that the team had picked up and run off to another country, which is totally factually incorrect. The team are very much here. And, I'm also here speaking to our customers. I picked up the phone and spoke to our top 150 customers, and I'm happy to speak to any other customers about what exactly has happened. And, again, we want to be here. I want to face this head on. It's not a case of just trying to run away. We're going to look to resolve this over the next few months as quickly as possible.
That's why we got you on. I wanted you to have a chance to explain it to people, because also everybody jumps to wild conclusions, and there's been so much like nonsense in this space for a while. I don't know if you saw, but Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty. He's going to be sentenced next year. Obviously, all of this is good too, because it makes people go, okay, wait, so the crypto space is not completely the Wild West and unregulated and full of crooks who get away with it, right?
Yeah, it's so frustrating for me personally. And, I really have empathy for our customers, but it's so frustrating that we're sitting in a position now where we're waiting to get a license from the FSCA. So it's the South African regulator. We as Revix were the first to move in South Africa to introduce these proof of reserves reports, where we were verifying the underlying assets that we have. And this was something that we were really sticking our chest about. So, I felt truly really embarrassed that there was this event that happened earlier this year. And, that's why we've sort of put everything we possibly can behind trying to rectify the situation. And just also something else to note, the platform continues to operate as it was just before the announcement. It's the reason as well that we've taken the approach that we've taken. So we decided to hold 24% of customer assets, which was the exposure that we had with Haru. And the idea was at a later point in time, and hopefully over the next few weeks or few months, you'd then be able to get that 24% back and reimburse customers. But the platform is able to continue operating unaffected. So deposits are coming in, withdrawals are going out, customers are being serviced. We've also got quite a few interesting developments happening in the background, which we can announce quite shortly. But yeah, I think the big game plan here really is now just to get funds back to customers as quickly as possible. And then also just to sit here, because I mean, we're in this for the long term. I think I've made the comment on the show a few times over. We're long-term greedy, right? We want customers to be with us for decades. And yeah, customers have every right, I think, to ask the questions that they have. You know, I need to be able to speak up to them as well as the rest of the team and be able to say, well, this is what's happened and this is what we're doing to fix it.
So go along and ask the questions and someone will talk to you. It's not like they're trying to hide from this. All right, brilliant. I love it, Sean. Thanks, man.
No, absolute pleasure, guys. And just to rehash that or to reiterate that, so it's support@revix.com. The team will be there. They will be able to respond. And if you want to chat with me personally as well, very happy to extend that offer.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sean. Nice to speak to you.
Guys. Good to speak to you as well. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks, Sean.
There he is. There's Sean Sanders. Just for those people who were asking, because we don't want anyone to think that we're ignoring you. And get him on and let him tell you what the latest update is. Why the hell not? Yeah. So I'm going to speak to a guy called Dave Chislett, who is and Lebang, you're going to love this, a creativity activator. All right.
Yes,
you are like, you know, you're the classic kind of creative person in any company. You come up with ideas, you put those ideas into action.
Yeah.
You take stuff that the more analytical people don't find very interesting and you make it better. And this is what creative people do, whether it's in music or art or advertising or whatever. And Dave Chislett is a creativity activator. Now, he also was Mr. South African music for a while. I've been a massive fan of South African music, and he's now in the Netherlands, but he's still a big supporter of that. So we can find out what he's up to, what he can teach us about creativity, and precisely what a creativity activator is, because I would be lying to you if I said I knew what that was. Got any ideas?
Well, it sounds pretty straightforward. He activates your creativity. He helps you unlock what's deep down inside, because we've all got it.
So he activates your creativity. Hang on.
Yeah. Like, but let him do all the talking. Let's not speak on his behalf.
Okay. We'll have an explanation of this in a short while. Also, just a few things in the news. So tell me which one you're most interested in. Tornado touches down in Mpumalanga. Any interest?
No. I feel like that's self-explanatory.
All right.
It's getting bad.
No, next.
Elon Musk's Tesla is ramping up efforts to launch humanoid robots. Any interest?
Let's get into this one.
Okay, hang on, Ryan.
That's scary. What's happening?
Everybody gets a vote. That's your vote. World Rugby admit making an error against the All Blacks World Cup final.
Okay, let's get into it.
Dum.
All right, so here it is. World Rugby have reportedly admitted that Aaron Smith's try against the Springboks in the Rugby World Cup should not have been ruled out. More than 3 weeks on from the final between the Springboks and the All Blacks, the debate and decision still rages on, with reports out of New Zealand now stating that World Rugby has conceded Smith's try should have stood.
It's too late, my friends. It is done. It is over. We've won the end. You lost. Let's call it a day. We've done the tours. It's over. There's nothing you guys can do. I don't agree with this.
Like, why are we putting this out now? You know,
because they're mad,
bro.
No,
they are mad. But I'm saying, like, then they're gonna contest every single game that's ever taken place. No,
it's over.
You have the time during
this is the same thing as that accusation of the racial slur. It's the same thing.
And he's sticking by it, by the way.
You see, we're so mad. We need to find anything. Let it go.
I'm just going to say it's all part of like losers being bitter and resentful and trying to find someone to blame. And this time it's the ref. So, well, we didn't lose. We didn't lose. South Africa didn't win. We actually won. But it was the decision of the referee. No, it wasn't. Just get over yourselves. It's done. Like Lebang says, it's in the past. Don't go digging up old graves. Sorry, too bad. Tough titties. All right, we'll be back in just a moment or two. Don't go anywhere. cliffcentral.com. It is a Wednesday morning.
I don't know. I think there are better people for that Red Bull. Ricardo is probably one of them. There's better people for that Red Bull. As a matter of fact, I mean, if McLaren wasn't doing so well, I'd say Lando should be in that Red Bull.
Imagine that fight.
He'd give Verstappen a run for his money.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That is correct. We are live this Wednesday morning. Lebang, Hosanna, Gareth, Cliff, you, me, everybody's ready for a busy Wednesday morning, and also the middle of the month of November. So we're heading downhill towards the end of the year. Thought it would be good to catch up with somebody who, this name should ring a lot of bells for people in South Africa. Dave Chislett. He's got davechislet.com, and he was born in Britain, raised in South Africa, and he currently lives in the Netherlands. He's a published author, poet, musician, and artist. He's also been an entrepreneur for 25 years. And the link that joins all the things in his life together is creativity, which I think is also something that Lebang knows a lot about. He's been on stage in one capacity or another since 1980. Dave, it's nice to have you on the show. How are you?
Good morning, Cliff. I'm well, thank you. I see you are too.
Nice to see you, man. Good. So Lebang and I are fascinated by this term, creativity activator. So what is that? And tell us whether you saw a gap in the market here and what exactly it means. Because I don't want to sound stupid about it, but does the description tell you everything you need to know?
Yeah, Lebang had it spot on. I believe that every human being is actually inherently creative. There's no such thing as someone who's not creative. But a lot of us are being kind of socialized and shamed out of it. It's not something we own and actively pursue. So I see my job as to helping people discover that and then bring it to the front and expand and learn how to use it. That's, for me, is the activation part of the job title.
All right, so there may be somebody sitting there listening to this right now going, no, I'm not really creative. Yeah. You say everyone is creative, but what if they think that, no, I'm not creative at all. I'm just a a standard bookkeeper. I crunch numbers. The more creative I am, the more dangerous my job gets.
A creative accounting. Yeah.
How do you respond to people who don't think that they're creative? And then we'll get on to the ones who do think they are.
Yeah. Well, look, I think what we need to first of all understand is that our sort of generally held societal notion of what creativity is based on high creative made by people who may not or may well be genii. And therefore, we're obsessed with this notion that it has to be radical, unique, extra special, only someone with a massive skill set could execute it. But actually, the fundamental process of creativity is so mundane that even the boring accountant who thinks he can't be creative actually is, because neurologically, what happens in his brain every single time he solves a creating problem is the same as the genius songwriter, actor, and poet.
But I mean, I could argue that they're not the same because we don't pay sufficient attention to the accountant who's doing what he has to do to make the books balance.
Yes.
Because it's boring and not creative. I mean, I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate here because there are going to be many of us who think that a lot of the things that we do, even creative people, Lebang, you know this too, on a day-to-day basis, a lot of the stuff that you do isn't very creative. You're actually just replying to emails or joining the dots, or, doing the obvious stuff.
But that's the thing. Creativity is if you like, the sausage machine, right? So an accountant puts in boring accounting knowledge, financial information, processes, and outcome solutions on the other side. The artist puts in, technical skills, musical theoretical knowledge, and outcomes music on the other side. We are obsessed with what comes out the other side, and we mythologize what people put in on the front end, while quite conveniently ignoring the fact that the actual process is mundane. It's literally joining the dots. It's finding a somewhat new configuration of information actually already exists, and then having the correct skills level and type to bring that to the attention of others. And most of us don't have those skills, the bringing it to the attention of others. It doesn't mean to say that everything we do is fundamentally mundane and not boring. It's just that, as you said, Gareth, most of us don't give a damn.
You agree with that, Lebang?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it's the how in which each individual uses their creativity to get that message across or for that output to be delivered. You'll deliver it in the same way, but in your same way. No two people will ever deliver it in the same way, regardless of how mundane the said process is. And I think that's where the creativity lies. And I mean, Dave, you can help me here, but in as much as we are all creatives, what really makes us all creatives is that we have our own unique ways of doing things. And that's the thing. So as to your point, Gareth, it's just sending an email. That's mundane. Sure. But how am I going to respond to this email? Am I going to be like, I hope this email finds you well. As discussed, please find attached. Or am I going to give it a little bit of pizzazz and, hey, hope you had a good weekend. Thank you so much. There's a delivery in things that sets you apart from the next person. And when you receive an email and it's like an AI written thing, you're already like, oh my days, yawn. But if it's a human that's added personality, a little bit of pizzazz, it's already got that better touch. And I think that's where the creativity lies. It's just, how does everybody uncover their creativity? And that's the thing that I'd like to know, Dave, is how does every single person on earth just tap into that and believe that, damn, I actually am a creative person?
All right, so that's what's this way. That's what's on the wall behind me there. Rebel, reject, create. So I mean, it may sound like a particularly anarchic or nihilistic creed, but in essence, what I'm saying is that the way our world works is very pattern and rule governed, right? So we want people to do what we tell them to do, so that we get more of what we've already got, because that's how the economy grows. That's how we get richer. That's how you stay poorer. Now, if you want to break out of any kind of cycle and get any kind of different result, you have to immediately start behaving differently. You change the inputs, you will change the outputs. So step number one is to rebel against the status quo, against the rules, against the way we've always done it, where that's right and this is wrong. The second step is then to do the same thing to yourself, to question your own assumptions, your own biases. Because like Lebang mentioned, we all come from our own corner. Someone growing up in Soweto has a totally different worldview and perspective of someone growing up in Sandton. And, English speaking, Portuguese speaking, Tswana speaking, whatever gender orientation, all of this plays a fundamental role in how we encounter and process and act in the world. So if you start to question the assumptions which underpin the way you act, you step out of your comfort zone into a territory where it is then possible to create, because then you have nothing and you are forced to rejoin the dots into a new configuration. So for anybody who's listening to this thinking, well, I'm here and I'm bored and I'm stuck in a rut and I don't know what to do, the first thing you should do is go and break some rules. And they don't have to be massive rules that are going to end up with you in jail, but you just need to start doing things differently. Start questioning, well, why do we always do it that way? Why do I always do it that way? And then you'll step into this quite confusing, gray, muggy, horrible place, which most people avoid at all costs, where new connections become possible because you're no longer attached to the solutions you had.
Okay, but I'm going to, again, have to be the devil's advocate here, because you say break rules.
Yes.
And most people are exactly opposed to that idea. They are so scared of breaking the rules. And really, this has always been the case throughout human history. There are always going to be a couple of leaders and many, many followers. And those followers are better at following the rules. They don't want to break the rules because there's chaos on the other side of that. And chaos can be, for most people who are orderly and like their life to be organized, chaos is the most scary thing in the world.
Only if that's all you've ever known and that's what you've been raised to expect, and that's how you project your identity into the future. There's this myth attached to being creative that it's one step away from madness. And I think that's a very convenient cliche. And I'm glad you said this, Gareth, because I firmly believe that in actual fact, none of that is true. History is written by the victors, and the victors, of course, want to maintain power. So they're going to tell people it's really essential that they obey the rules so that order is kept so that they can be happy. And yet, if you look around the world today, by and large, your average human being is not happy because they live under circumstances which are oppressive and which require them to obey bunches of rules which do not serve them. And I don't frankly just believe any of that stuff anymore. I would welcome a bit more chaos, because I think people would then be forced into self-actualization as opposed to this weird androidic charade of rule following that we currently have.
More chaos.
Yes, more chaos.
Right. Bring it on.
It'll lead to more creativity. I mean, I completely hear that. I also feel like creativity as itself is almost like a muscle that we need to continuously exercise. So you can find yourself being very creative in your childhood, like doing art at school, dancing, blah, blah, coming up with raps, whatever the case is. And then you get into adulthood and then you fall into the line of monotone.
Yes, but why? But why do you give up on it?
Exactly.
You know why? Because you get shamed out of it. Because someone somewhere on the line says, yeah, who do you think you are? Ricky Martin? You're never going to be Sylvester Stallone. You're just not hard enough to be doing that. And we are taught to get embarrassed about our output because it doesn't meet this mythical genius level standard. And it's got nothing to do with that. It's about self-expression. It's about being who you are. And it just gets bludgeoned out of us. I mean, that's what standardized testing at school does. It tells you there is no gray, there is right and there is wrong. And you will spend the rest of your life shoving stuff into little boxes.
I mean, let's be realistic here too. Unfortunately, and I have my problems with the education system and with, parenting, because God knows that's not a perfect science. But the fact is, we can't have a system better than life for catering to individuals. And that includes the bumps and the knocks and the people telling you that you're not as great as you are and all of that stuff that goes against the grain of what you're saying here to bring creativity out. What we have been doing in the last little while, and it's a novel experiment for humanity, is many kids all over the world have been raised in this environment where creativity is encouraged. They're never told they're not good enough, etc. And it's actually resulted in less happiness, not more. A lot of these kids are now directionless, confused. They're not sure exactly what to do because their parents and their teachers have said to them, just be you, live your life. self-actualize, try anything you want. Nothing's bad. Everything's good. And it hasn't necessarily helped a lot of these kids.
Now, thank you again. I love it. You're pushing all my buttons. Yeah, absolutely. Because nothing is a siloed, self-contained, closed-off system. So everything I'm saying is fantastic. But if you don't have discipline, if you don't have routine, if you don't have somebody every now and then who's saying to you, you know what, that can be better. No, that's not good enough. Do something different. In other words, a conflicting collaborator, you will not be pushed. And if you're not pushed, quite frankly, human beings and nature itself tends towards entropy. It's all just going to slide downhill into a big blubbery pool of mud. So there's an uneasy tension here. The creative process itself is part behind the scenes, using your unconscious brain kind of to all intents and purposes magic, and part hardcore rationality, logic, joining A to B to C to follow to a new answer. That's also a weird dynamic, a weird dichotomy. So, Cliff, I think you're absolutely right. Too much of either one is a bad thing. I think in general, in the history of the human race, we've tended way too much towards the rules. Let's control the hell out of everybody. And maybe we're going to a sort of reset moment where it's not going to go well for a while we've got all these, but also, millennial bashing, Cliff, it's a thing. Just because they do it differently doesn't mean to say it's bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, the jury's still out on how successful they will be at making themselves useful to the rest of us, because there's a huge difference between self-expression and creativity. No, but I mean,
yes,
again,
there is.
I don't know why I'm being the bad guy in this call, but it's all good and well to talk about creativity and opportunity and people chasing their dreams and all that stuff. Somebody's got to be realistic about this. And if you don't make yourself useful to other people, if you aren't doing things for society at large, and if the creative ideas that you're coming up with they don't have some utility, then really it's just, it's like a Mona Lisa that was never painted. It's just an idea. And it's not useful to anybody.
No, and the best idea in the world isn't useful to anybody if you don't have the skill set to execute it to a high degree of usability.
Okay, but then I've got a question for both of you, because you are both, self kind of declared creatives, and in both your cases, there's enough evidence to show that you know what you're talking about. But is the person who executes the stuff necessarily also the person who has to come up with the idea? Because those are different qualities, and sometimes the person who comes with the ideas is good at that, and then you need somebody else to take it and execute it.
You've been reading the literature, Cliff. Yeah, there's an organization in the States that call themselves Foresight, who reckon that it's not that there are creative people and not creative people, it's that creative people can loosely be divided up into 4 categories: big ideas people, fine detail people, executors, and developers. So no, in fact, you're absolutely right. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right, Cliff. Sometimes the person who comes up with the idea is not best placed to execute it or develop it, or hasn't got the frame of mind or reference to do the fine detail checking to see if it'll ever even damn work. That's why teams and open, transparent collaboration is so important, especially now while technology is changing so fast. Because quite frankly, we can't do all of this stuff on our own.
We're not islands.
Specialist knowledge.
Yeah, Gareth, I'm actually going to bring it closer to home. When Rena does those personality tests with us, she'll put all of us in the room and she'll say, okay, answer a couple of questions. And then she'll say, okay, you 3 are drivers, you 4 are communicators, you 4 are analysts, and the rest of you. She'll group you based on your personality. You and I in the staff are the driver communicators. We come up with ideas, and then there's the analysts in the team who are the people that actually, work on the numbers and check out the stats. They're the implementers and the executors. I think a big part of creativity is definitely understanding where your creativity starts and ends, and at what point you need to bring other people into the process, and other people that are way better equipped than you. If you are just the ideas person, be that, live in that, and excel in that. And you will find the executors that you work well with that are only executors that are good at that, and be that. And then you've got this great team of people going around finding creative solutions to problems that we have. And these are problems that are previously, maybe the solutions are pretty stock standard. We're trying the same thing and nothing's changing. The minute you put in a creative in there, or a creative team, the solutions are completely different, and they are the ones that most likely work because you're not giving it the same eye or the same attention. So teamwork is a huge part of it, and that also brings in the reality check of, you're not all just going in there like, let's do this, whoa, this is gonna be fun. Somebody in there's gonna be like, okay, slow down, guys, let's be real, is this gonna work?
Yeah. I mean, like what Cliff's doing here, and geez, why do I keep on calling you Cliff? What Gareth is doing here in this interview is exactly that, right? He's acting as the antagonistic collaborator. He's being difficult. He's saying, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? What does that lead to? Better answers,
100%.
More clarity. It's
100%.
part of the process. It has to be embraced. Absolutely.
All right, well, let's talk about your background for a little bit, because I remember you and your name came up a lot in South African music before I was even in radio. I was just a listener, and people used to talk about Dave Chislett and how you knew everybody in the music business, and you helped many South African bands to kind of get out there and do what they needed to do. Just explain to everybody what that was, because there may be people who don't know any of that history.
Well, it's very gracious of you, Gareth, because I think you were one of the people when you were on that other large national radio station that I used to take regular pot shots at, because I was unhappy with how much South African music was being played on the radio.
I had anything to do with it. Management and quotas had zero to do with me, but it's fine.
Yeah, I know. I started writing poetry when I was 10. When I was 17, my best mate at the time, Julian, said, hey, let's turn some of those into songs, because he could play multiple musical instruments. And that led to me being in bands. And I did that all the way through the end of high school, through national service, and then university. And then I kind of made the step into actually managing bands, because basically I was a no-hope, useless bass player who could only play quavers across 3 chords. I was much better at organizing stuff. And that led to me meeting Mr. Barney Simon, who's really Mr. South African alternative rock, and starting a career as a music journalist and promoter while doing regular South African music updates on that national broadcaster. So, I mean, it's quite funny, like Mr. South African music, it just shows you the sort of like white privilege. I mean, the whole Kwaito hip-hop thing was exploding around me. I didn't know anybody from those scenes. I was totally immersed in the white rock underground kind of thing, which even in the 90s was still very much a white rock underground. Luckily, I don't think it's like that anymore, but it was a very segmented, weird thing. So that's my background. I mean, I started off as a poet, goodness me, and somehow kind of got enveloped in rock and roll, which took me 20 years to kind of come out the other side of.
All right. Well, I mean, it's interesting because musicians are probably some of the most creative people in the world, and people who can write songs are even a level above that to me, because those people, they just come up with something which is entirely original, which is based on those 8 keys on the keyboard and a couple of sharps and flats. I mean, it drives me crazy that I can't do that, because I have such respect and admiration for people who can. Do you ever? And Lebang, this goes for you too. Do you ever like rank the creative arts in any kind of hierarchy? Because I often think that someone who can paint, draw, sculpt, write music, those people are truly mind-bogglingly brilliant in some way, if they can do it for that matter. But then you get the next kind of rung down, who are the ones who can perform it, who are also tremendously talented, because that requires creativity, especially because every performance is different. And then kind of a rung under that are the people who can replicate it. And in my mind, those are 3 categories that I can ascribe certainly to artistic pursuits that are creative. But I don't know if that's accurate. And I'm really trying always to figure out sort of how things fit together. And that's why I drew up this hierarchy in my head. Do you agree with it, or do you think it's stupid?
I don't think it's stupid. I don't think I've ever heard it before. Look, a high degree of technical skill is no guarantee of catchy originality.
Sure.
So those two things are actually separate. So, I mean, I've played in bands with classically educated, technically wildly good people, but they weren't the songwriter. Because they didn't have the ideas, they didn't have the sound in their head, which led to a at least partly unique combination of those notes on a keyboard that led to a catchy melody, which they could then, using their technical knowledge, create an orchestration around. So for me, what you're saying holds true. There's a big difference between the people who are creating the music and just playing it, which is not to say the people who are just playing it are not creative or talented in any way. It's just that there's a component from the one that isn't present in the other. So there is definitely that. By
the way, the reason that I create these systems in my head is not to say one is better than the other. It's more to explain the different layers of creativity. I mean, I do think, by and large, that someone who can make something out of nothing, is truly that's a different category to those who have tremendous technical expertise and, as you say, can really perform something beautifully and even change it in the actual performance every time, because I think that's also a skill.
I mean, there's so much going on here. Sometimes in certain disciplines, you have to reach an incredibly high level of technical ability in order to do things differently to create the new stuff. But in other disciplines, not having a huge amount of technical ability allows you to break rules in such ways that you come up with really interesting stuff that actually works. So on the one hand, I'm thinking fine art painting, like you've really got to have your chops down to be able to do anything different and inspiring and new there. But I mean, hello, punk rock, Two Chords and the Truth. Those guys knew nothing about music, but still created very catchy, memorable tunes because they knew nothing. And so I think it's very area and context specific, which approach is going to work in which area.
Yeah, I think I agree. It definitely boils down to that specific industry that we're speaking of, where, for example, if you look at in music, if you have like a group of people battling in a rap and now everybody's told to freestyle, you are then coming up with things on the top of the dome, just in the moment. You haven't had the opportunity to write things down as a songwriter. You're just coming up with stuff. Some would say that is peak creativity because you're living in the moment, using the energy that's around you to come up with the stuff. But in the same context, if you are an amazing songwriter and you've sat down and you've just put down just amazing words that come together so well with the beat, that in itself is also amazing creativity. So for me, I would say it just boils down to the person, regardless of the industry you're in. It's how you're exercising your creativity over and over and over and over again, in the same way that you'd exercise at the gym. How big are your muscles getting? How big is your creativity getting? How strong is it getting? How clever, how much more interesting are you viewing the world? That for me is the bottom line. It boils down to the person.
What about the other part of this, which is, when someone like Kanye West comes along, and he is undoubtedly one of the most creative people in the world. He's also like very close. You said creativity and madness live close together. But, a lot of the stuff that makes Kanye sound like he's a total lunatic and upsets lots of people, and he will say stuff that is outrageous, and he'll say stuff that is offensive, and he'll be completely counterintuitive with most of the stuff, and yet he believes, his self-belief is so great that he just powers through criticism and comes out on the other side usually winning. There's something about creativity that's also rebellious and doesn't give a shit what people think, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But also don't forget that somebody who's achieved the level that Kanye has got a closed feedback circuit around him in his immediate bubble. And he also has the money to outlast the curve of disapproval. So once you're there, and this is what happens to highly famous people, they often become detached from what we know as reality, because they literally don't experience what we experience on a day-to-day basis. That's kind of what allows them to come up with out-of-the-box counterintuitive stuff that works, but it's also what leads to Kanyeisms and complete disconnect from what is happening in the real world. So, when you become a celebrity and when you become incredibly rich, it is often difficult to continue to be creative because your frame of reference essentially shrinks because it creates an envelope around you which other ordinary people can't penetrate. There's a good reason.
I would say that's true, but not for him. I mean, like, it appears to me that even when he's doing the things that nobody likes and that people have a problem with, this guy is still miles ahead of people who are, plugged in and researching stuff and listening to everyone's opinion. He's coming up with absolutely mind-bending, totally original stuff. And even if he's in this closed feedback loop, and even if he's doing things that, ordinary members of the public may regard as being a little bit too risky, dangerous, out of the box, to use that horrible terminology. He still wins. He wins, and he produces products that people love. Remember, he started as a music producer, and he was very good at that. Everybody said, "Oh, Kanye is so amazing at this." Then he said, "I'm going to rap." Everyone was like, "Well," and remember, in Jay-Z's company, they all said to him, "No, you shouldn't rap because you're not that good." And he said, "Fuck you," and he went ahead and did it. And then he became arguably one of the best rappers, if not the best in some people's opinion, in the 2000s. Then he decided, I'm going to go into fashion. So he designs these shoes, and everybody goes, "These are horrible shoes. You're never going to make it." All the fashion experts tell him, "Kanye, this is going to be a disaster. Don't do it." He goes ahead and he becomes a juggernaut that blows the rest of them out of the water. Everything this guy does, he does in spite of the knowledge of the people who are supposedly the experts, and he wins.
But remember, Gareth, with Kanye, what Kanye had from birth was that self-belief and that constant approval from his mother, which really set him apart from most of his peers. His mom literally single-handedly said every single day, "Dude, you can be the best. Whatever you do, whatever you touch will be gold." And that's why, as Kanye West, he doesn't need anybody else's opinion as to whether this will work or not. And I say that to say this, Dave, what link is there between creatives and almost like that self-worth or that self-belief? Because using Kanye as an example kind of proves that if you just believe in yourself 100%, not give a rat's ass about what anybody's saying, you can stay ahead of the curve and you can be your most creative version of yourself. So how much of that, self-reflection-y side of life matters in the whole creativity process?
Well, you've answered your question in your question. You said he can, not he will. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Yes, self-belief, confidence is critical in creativity, because essentially every time you do something new, you're stepping into the unknown. You're taking a chance. You're breaking some rules. You're going where someone's never been before, and you're exposing yourself to, I mean, especially these days, online hate, criticism. If you don't have belief in what you're doing, it's very hard to do that over and over and over again. But by the same token, people are doing this all day, every day, and they're not Kanye West. So you also have to get lucky. You have to be in the right time at the right place so that when you get lucky, your chops are down, your knife is sharp, and you can deliver the goods. I mean, think about Kanye West, that progression that Gareth just outlined, where he was first a successful record producer, right? Then he became a really good rapper, right? Now, how much time as a rich, successful record producer did Kanye West have to put into practicing becoming a good rapper compared to someone who's hustling on the streets, has to make a living, has to stay out of trouble, a lot more. Now, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours of mastery have been somewhat discredited, but still, if you've got a benchmark in front of you, which he did because he produced all the best rappers, and you are constantly striving for improvement and you put in those kinds of hours, you're gonna get so good over time that once you're there, people won't really be able to tell if you were a genius to start with, or whether you just turned yourself into one.
Sure.
And who cares really? Because there's no way to measure.
Exactly. Who cares?
There's no creativity index where you have ranked in terms of who the most creative person on earth is.
Yeah.
Because you
How would you do that?
Well, you could argue that, someone like Elon Musk, who is much more on the analyst and driver side of things, that this guy is more creative than some of the people on the more artistic side of things, because he thinks big. He thinks, I'm going to get to Mars.
Yeah.
I want to make electric cars. I want to drill tunnels under California for transport. I want to solve problems. And he comes up with creative solutions to problems, which technically most of us would not say is creative, but it actually is, according to your definition, right?
Absolutely. He's on my top 10 list of when I give examples of people who are highly creative that most people don't think of. I'm always, unfortunately, considering recent developments with him, mention Elon Musk.
So there is a list. You even use one.
Well, otherwise people don't understand what I'm talking about, Gareth. Frame of reference, very useful.
Who else is on that list? Top 5. Not in order, but just, top 5 creatives who have made a success of themselves.
Well, I mean, people like Beyonce, again, very much like Kanye West, right? Became successful doing one thing and then just branched, into fashion, lingerie, perfume, acting, you name it, also production.
Sure.
I think she's enormously creative. I mean, Albert Einstein, if you want to come up with a general theory of relativity, you first have to conceive of the idea that it may exist. And he did that really early on. He spent decades trying to prove it before he went out with it. And that's also, again, the hidden mechanics behind this stuff. We tend to get very carried away with the shiny end product, whilst being very coy and in denial about the blood, sweat, and tears that went on for years behind the scenes in order to get there.
Tell me about Holland. Is that a nice environment to be creative in? You're in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands. Well, it's very different to South Africa in that it's an extremely well-established economy and society. So there are structures for absolutely everything, public transport and what have you. And that, in many ways, is extremely liberating. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you live in a highly structured society, the kind of day-to-day pressures about actually staying alive and making a living are really at arm's length, which then puts you into a space where you can dedicate time and effort to more rarefied concerns. But then here comes the flip side. Because it's so organized and orderly and established, it's also very civilized, and there are very few rough edges, which means that things can get homogenous and gray really quickly. So as a foreigner living in the Netherlands, I find it very stimulating because it's different for me. But I think as a Dutch person, I mean, you've all met Dutch people in South Africa. Why the hell are they there? Well, because they're bored of how safe and well-run and predictable the Netherlands is.
I think your environment can have a lot to do with how creative you are.
It's critical.
And sometimes the people who are the most thoughtful and genius about changing things are the ones who come from the most difficult and arduous backgrounds, because that stuff gives you insights that you wouldn't have had if you'd been comfortable and grown up in, the supposed first world with, good education and healthcare and everything else provided for you.
No, you wouldn't have. And it's a thing that a lot of big businesses just gloss over. The environment is critical. So not just the environment that people emerged from, but the one they go to every day to work.
Sure. Yeah.
We really don't pay enough attention to making those environments conducive to happiness, because happiness is a key indicator of productivity.
Sure.
And happy, productive employees are people who stay in their jobs, care about their businesses, and make them better. But instead, we're kind of obsessed on widgets.
Because happy doesn't necessarily translate to great or to creative either. I know lots of creative people, and some of them are the most unhappy people you will ever meet. They're never satisfied. They're always chasing the next thing. They're always trying to perfect something. They're always trying to come up with a better version of it. The happiness doesn't factor into creativity in any way. They're unrelated.
So, Gareth, happiness is the end of the road, not the process, according to what you just said.
No, I don't think that they even are on spectra that meet. I don't think these are lines that ever meet on any graph. I think, sometimes some people are completely happy when they're in a routine. They do the same thing every day. They aren't applying themselves creatively to stuff. They're really in a sort of bubble of existence where they're
Are they
basically
though?
Yeah. So I'm going to attack this terminology here. Cliff, I think they're doing it again. Gareth, I think they're content. And I don't think that's the same as happiness. The scenario that you sketched, people never happy, always looking for the better thing, or always living at the edge of their capacity. They are truly alive. It's what Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi defines flow as being peak optimal experience, where you are in a space where, because you are stepping out of your comfort zone, you are deploying as much of your skill set as possible. It's challenging, it's rewarding. Is that happiness? Well,
is that related to ambition?
It can be, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. It can become an end in and of itself, because once you've stepped into flow, it's a bit like getting stoned for the first time. It's a state that exists in your mind that you want to recapture for and in and of itself. And a lot of people tie ambition to that, but it's not required.
I don't think.
What do you think, Lebang?
I think the idea of somebody doing the same thing every single day, taking the same route to work, doing the same routine in the household every single day, I don't know if anybody can truly say, I am happy with this. You can definitely be content. You can definitely be perhaps even at peace because it is your life and it is what it is. But there is definitely there's a place where happiness and creativity definitely meet, in my opinion. But also, that just it depends for you how you view it. Dave, I think I want to know about like the kind of clients that you service, because now you've taken all of your life experiences, you've packaged them into like nice little neat systems, and you're here to save the world and make everybody unlock their creativity, and I love that for you. So if I own a business and I can tell that my employees are not being creative, they don't like it here, I need help, and you're the guy I call.
Yeah.
What are your favorite kinds of people to service, and what does that look like? Because again, like to Gareth's point, somebody listening out there is probably like, what the hell are these people smoking? There has to just be, there must be systems to this. But the way you're describing it, it's a thing that is practiced and it's worked and people have benefited from this.
Yeah. So, I do a lot of work in business, in corporates, or with entrepreneurs. And the reason why people come to me is that they've realized that the environment that they're doing business in is changing and changing fast, and they simply can't keep up because they don't know how to keep up. And so what I'm often doing is going into these places and saying to people, well, actually, the way that you typically approach things is if things do not change. So a lot of your processes and your approach and your tools are predicated on the idea that things will not, do not, and should not change. And I'm saying that absolutely the flip side, the opposite, is true. So how do you need to then behave? What systems do you need to have in place for a situation that is in constant flux? Because that's very different. The contentment, doing the same thing over and over every day approach versus the I'm going to push myself, even when this is supposed to be finished, I'm going to do the next thing and the next better thing and the next better thing. That's a fundamental difference in mindset. And so because businesses are very codified and very rule driven and KPI and KPA and don't color outside the lines, they often actually struggle to deal with rapid change because the mindset is obedient. It's giving us more of what we already have. And that's what I tackle. I'm going to say, well, really? What's that given us so far? And how's that going to look in 3 years? Let's do something different. And I've got a whole grab bag of tools that, even if you don't really want to, you will end up thinking differently about stuff just because of the way the tool functions.
Yeah. Are people who are good with money also always creative, or are those two not necessarily related either?
Okay, so I'm glad you said good with money as opposed to just rich, because clearly the way our global system works is if you already have money, you don't pay tax, and you will just get richer and richer no matter what else you actually get up to. I think quite often people who are good with money are creative because they're able to spot the gap. They're able to do unexpected things. You know, the people who dived into crypto with both boots on and then got out were not following a curve. They were following an instinct. They were following their own idea. So I think those two things often do go together. But I think there's a difference between creating wealth, being good with money, and staying rich.
Yeah, because I sometimes struggle to see the link between those two, but I think you've made a pretty good explanation of it now. So your website says, when I write a poem, I solve a problem. So I always thought that, poetry, there are very good poets in the world, but everybody thinks again that they've got a poet in them, and a lot of people's poetry is horrible.
Yes, mine too, by the way.
Because it's self-indulgent. And it's the last thing any of us want to hear. It's like your worst fear is when someone comes up to you and goes, "Oh, I've written this poem. Do you want to hear it?" Anyway, what you mean there, I think, has less to do with literal poetry.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I do literally mean that when I write a poem, I'm solving a problem. I have an idea in my head. I have a notion. I have an emotional response. I'm like, how the hell do I select words in order to make what I'm feeling clear to someone who's going to read these black squiggles on a page? That's a problem. And so when I write a poem, I'm trying to solve that problem. I'm trying to arrange words in a poem in a way that makes what I'm feeling or wanting to communicate absolutely clear to the person who ends up reading it. But it's also metaphorical because in essence, that's what every problem is. We've got an idea, we've got a notion, and we need to find the path and the platform or the mechanism to get it out to other people. So, hey, it's really meta, actually. Thanks, Cliff.
What about
Gareth? Why do I keep on calling you Cliff?
Jesus. You're not being very creative. You're not being very creative about this, Dave. Jesus, it's one quick thing to remember, and it's even written on the screen in front of you.
This is the
Listen, what about this idea of writer's block? I mean, you see a lot of people get stuck. You mentioned it in the discussion with Lebang about clients of yours and kind of who you're helping, but many of us who may or may not consider ourselves hugely creative, and I think most of us deep down inside want to be more creative, even if we don't think we are, because it's creating is the closest you get to divinity during your life. When you're actually making something, when you're creating ideas, when you're coming up with plans, when you're thinking in abstract ways, this is how you know you're alive. And I wonder how we get past that feeling that all of us have felt, where you just go, I can't get past this thing. I need to do this. There are deadlines. There are imperatives. I've got this problem I want solved. I'm feeling frustrated. How to get past it?
Yeah. So I wrote a book about that called Unblock Creative Block, Writer's Block, but actually it works for all creative things. Yeah. It does happen. And I think the problem is that a lot of people think that it's a problem and that it's something that needs to be fixed and needs to be solved. But actually, I view it more as a red flag. When you get blocked, it's yourself telling you something's not right. It's not going where it should. You're essentially trying to push through very, very thick treacle. And it's thick treacle because that's resistance from the idea that you're processing. And what I've learned over the years is I just need to trust myself. If I feel that, I just stop. I walk away. I go and do something else. I go read a book. I speak to people. I get outdoors. I get busy with something else. Because that problem, where I'm stuck, then goes into the back of my mind, into my unconscious mind, which operates very slowly and uses way more capacity of my actual brain than my rational waking mind. And I trust that in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, I'll go back to the project and I'll have a new idea to push through the treacle. I'll have a new approach. I'll have a new takeaway. And I think what happens is that people get blocked and they get stuck and they assume that that's the end of the road, that it's finished, that it's done. And I don't believe that. I believe that that is part of the process. It's the process saying, no, doesn't work, try again, do something differently. And
what do you do, Lebang? When you're stuck, what do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely that. If I'm in the office and I'm having like creativity block, and I'm like, I just can't get through this. You'll probably find me taking a walk across the road to Popeyes and go try some chicken that I don't usually try. If I'm at home and I'm with the kids, I interestingly enough, I do this thing of just like switching off the TV, and I force us to all kind of sit and conversate and, watch. I specifically like watching my kids having to come up with things to do. Because for them, it's like, well, TV is all we're going to know. They growing up in a time where there's devices and this and this and that. The kids are forced to walk outside and go and play and pick up stuff and make stuff. And that kind of makes me sad, because I'm like, damn, like it's so easy for them to just fill in those gaps. And as an adult, now I don't know if I still have that bone inside of me that where I can just, go outside and build something or make something with my actual hands. And so it's a range of things, but it's definitely stopping what I'm doing in the moment and just doing something completely different. Like, for example, taking a tuk-tuk to work every other week. I mean, it shows you different things, and it kind of opens up your mind to having conversations with people that you'd probably never meet. Like the conversations that you have with Uber drivers. My word, like it's hectic out there. So it's engaging with different people, doing different things. And yeah, it's to Dave's point, just being a rebel, not going, not always following the same rules, and being uncomfortable is kind of the cost, because the cost is this is weird. I don't usually do this. And I see that with my kids. The minute the TV goes off, they don't know how to act. Now they have to think. Now they have to come up with stuff. And they're like, Mommy, I'm bored. I'm like, tough titties, bro. Come up with some stuff to do. And that's when you see the creativity process, even in their small little minds, the human, creativity that they're born with, that just pops out. And it's a beautiful thing. And it sucks that over time that thing gets like crushed by society, man. Screw society.
Dave in the comments says, I agree. The outdoors is an antidote to writer's block. Sometimes I just stroll around the block. I've also heard from writers who are very prolific that what they do is they just keep writing. So even if they're writing bullshit and it's not very well thought through, it's not very interesting, they just keep going until something eventually lands that feels good.
Yeah, it's like farting. Yeah, it's better out than in.
Sure. Well, that's for sure.
That's a nice note. So yeah, that's what people do. They, because again, we get obsessed with this idea that it all needs to be quality, when in actual fact, you need to generate a lot of quantity and get a lot of the really bad stuff out in order to get to the good stuff. So when you're stuck and you feel that maybe if you're writing, this is just drivel, carry on. Yeah. Just carry on, get it out. But then tomorrow or next week, it'll be gone. And you'll have made space for something else.
Very
and
good.
Also, I think there's a big do you energy with regards to that. There's no thing, there's no list of things to do if you're definitely stuck. Try all of it and resonate to the one that works for you better.
Yes.
It's not a controlled system where there's a list that you have to follow. It is so closely linked to who you are as an individual and how you express yourself and whatever mediums you choose to excel that makes it actually work. And the more you understand yourself, the better of a creative you'll become.
Agreed. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I love it. I also think you said this, which I completely agree with. You're forever curious, which leads you to always ask why and how. As a result, you've been able to join the dots across many worlds. Being curious and being interested in other people, other things, what's going on around you. This is essential. And that'll bring you happiness too, because then you're never actually sitting around going, I'm bored, because there's always something to stimulate the mind. And when there's things to stimulate the mind, you try to solve problems. Before you know it, you're being creative.
But you also sometimes need to be bored, because boredom also drives you to solve problems. You're like, oh my God, I've got to change this. I'm so bored.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. You get into a rut, right? And you need to break out of that. Okay, I love it. Dave, nice to catch up with you. And thanks for being on the show this morning. It was lovely to hear what you're up to. And Lebang, we will see you next week, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. For the rest of us, have an awesome day, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gareth. Ciao.